I'm Dharani. I finished my master's in business administration from University of Amsterdam. And as a part of my education, I happen to have finished my thesis on a concept called as Capitalism 2.0. And the Capitalism 2.0 speaks about how do we transition from the current existing capitalistic models to a new economic model, which is more sustainable and equitable in all senses. So, as we face many unprecedented economic and environmental challenges, which it is they start from wealth inequality to environmental degradation to societal discontent. These are all known as the limitations of capitalism 1.0. And in order to make sure that there's a transition to a new economic model which is more sustainable and equitable, we've built a new capitalism 2.0, which is a new economic model. And what is the difference between existing capitalism 1.0 and capitalism 2.0? So the tenets of the capitalism 1.0 as such are primarily profit maximization, which is first. Second core principle is the shareholder ownership. And the third core principle of the capitalism 1.0 is the market competition. And how do we make a transition to capitalism 2.0? Primarily from the profit maximization, we're moving towards PPP, which is profit, people, and planet orientation, which is combination of different stakeholders, which includes the employees and also people who are involved in the businesses, not just the profit maximization. And the second element we're speaking about is shareholder ownership. We're moving from shareholder ownership to distributed ownership, which is also a tenet we're trying to make a transition towards. And the third we're speaking about is market competition, and we're trying to move from competition towards collaboration and cooperation inside the organizations. And why is this transition necessary today? It is primarily because of the wealth maximization and also the environmental degradation, the climate change, all the negative externalities which had been the results of the existing capitalism 1.0 historically since 1940s to 1960s to 1970s. So to make this transition, proposing a new model that is using the Web3 technologies and AI to make this transition. And how do we do that? By using Web3, and what do fall under Web3 and why does Web3 help us doing all of this? Primarily because of the characteristics which the Web3 tries to give us. One is decentralization. And how does it give decentralization? If you're utilizing something called as blockchain technology, which is primarily decentralizing, which means the information would be decentralized towards the people who are functioning in the businesses throughout. So starting from the decision making and towards the governance, decentralization of all of these elements is possible through the blockchain. And second thing that we're speaking about is the shift of ownership. So how do you distribute the ownership using the blockchain technologies? Because it would also decentralize the amount of information that is visible and also available for the people who are at the top. And also the third is how do you decentralize the governance? It is using smart contracts where you would allow everyone through the blockchain in order to vote for a particular decision, which would make the decision making and also the ownership to be more decentralized. So this is the proposition that we've given for my thesis. And after the proposition, when we've gone through the survey, so the results we got through the survey is primarily which supports all of these models who say that it is necessary to move to more sustainable, environmentally sustainable business actions. Because as we see today, even if you're speaking about the smallest of the businesses or smallest parts of the businesses, the negative externalities, for example, the plastic that we're producing is also in tons, and it is not just impacting the business but also the environment. While these externalities are impacting the environment, and while the public and the environment is paying the price, why are businesses not paying the price for this? That's the question where the whole thesis has started. And the solution for all of this is what we're proposing to make sure that the whole businesses move towards a new set of economic model which would allow the businesses to be more sustainable and also equitable in their ways of functioning. So, when I say an economic model, we might think of a larger economic model of how the whole world is functioning or the countries are functioning and the GDP, but then we are concentrating only on the businesses and their functioning and their governance in this particular thesis. So, based on the results that we have got, most of the interviewees who come from the different tenets, who all belong to the leadership positions that we've spoken to, have given their opinions telling that it is they would want the sustainability to be coming in, they would want the distributed ownership to be coming in, but then there are also some drawbacks on executing all of these models. Primary drawback is primarily the stakeholder buy-in, shareholder buy-in to be very specific. That's because who would want to lose the amount of power? Who would want to give away the ownership that they have over making the decision? So that is one. Despite the fact the whole company is getting impacted, but that's not what's happening. But that's not. Those are not the people who are making decisions. But the decision is made only by the shareholders who are also impacted. But they do not allow the other sets to be, while you face the impact, you should also have a say in making the decision, is what this is speaking about. It is a moral question about why are people not involved in making these decisions and why are we accepting these models. So let's speak historically. We have not accepted the fact that the king was making decisions, which is why we had a new model of political system called democracy. And why should we not have the same democratic principles when we are speaking about the organizations, the private ownership of the organization, and also the private decision making of the organization, which is impacting at a large scale to the society and the environment, is not being accounted because we do not have the ability to make the decision, because we do not own the ownership, while you work for them as a worker and a owner, in a worker and owner relationship. So, in conclusion, we do have drawbacks in implementing this. Primarily, the regulations, because Web3 as a technology has not been regulated in many countries, especially in the Asian countries. And second is with respect to the privacy issues that we have. But it is also quite possible, considering blockchain also has private blockchains which can be executed. And we also do have examples of these things happening, including in the land records, in the governance systems. Therefore, there are results that are very positive towards this transition. But then, in order to do that, we have to make sure that the regulations are in place. And second, people are also aware and educated about the principles. If an employee is not aware about his own rights and his own votes and what he can or cannot ask from the ownership, then how can he possibly know? Therefore, it is very important for us to educate people on this and also bring awareness about these models, so that people would also start asking for what their right is and also build new systems based on these ideas. And the third thing that we are also suggesting is that integration of Web3 technologies into the business models. So, with this, in conclusion, we believe the shift is possible. The transition is very much in place. It's actually happening in many of the countries or also places, but it is in very small space. We expect it to be happening at a large scale, and going forward in the future, capitalism 2.0 is going to be becoming the base and foundational model of how the businesses are going to function, and that's the future that we see from here, which is why I was also quite excited to be working on this concept. Thank you so much for listening to this. నేను చదువుకున్నది ఆమ్స్టర్డామ్ యూనివర్సిటీ ఆఫ్ ఆమ్స్టర్డామ్. నా కోర్స్ వచ్చేసి మాస్టర్స్ ఇన్ బిజినెస్ అడ్మినిస్ట్రేషన్. పెట్టుబడిదారీ విధానం 2.0 నూతన సుస్థిర ఆర్థిక నమూనా వెబ్3 సాంకేతికతను ఉపయోగించి మానవాళి ఇంతకు ముందెన్నడూ ఎరుగని ఆర్థిక మరియు పర్యావరణ సవాళ్లను ప్రస్తుతం ఎదుర్కొంటున్నది. ఆధునిక ఆర్థిక వ్యవస్థకు మూలాధారంగా ఉన్న పెట్టుబడిదారీ నమూనా ఒత్తిళ్లకు లోనవుతున్నట్లు స్పష్టమైన సంకేతాలు వస్తున్నాయి.